Hello, folks. I'm Dr. Sandy Gluckman. I am a learning behavior and mood specialist. I worked out of a clinic in Frisco, Texas called the Whole Child Clinic, and my practice is called Parenting That Heals. So what this means is that I work with parents whose children are grappling with learning behavior and mood challenges, and I show parents, I teach them how to engage with these children, how to connect with these children in a way that they are using the parent-child relationship to actually heal and reverse these difficulties that the children are having. So today, my puppy and I are here to talk to you about a subject that I would never have dreamed I would ever be talking about, and that is how to parent during a pandemic. I'm in a privileged position because I'm so blessed. In my practice, see wonderful parents. And I've noticed that lately they're beginning to tell me that they too have come to the conclusion that there are some things that they need to do differently. There are some things they need to think differently about. There's some behaviors that they need to change in their parenting in order to deal with the current situation. And so they begin to tell me about some of the different ways they are dealing with issues such as screen time, such as discipline, learning, how to deal with the children's anxieties and fears, how to deal with the children's frustrations. And every time they tell me something that they're doing that's different, I'm blown away. And I get so excited because I think to myself, I've got to let everybody else know about this idea. And so that's how this project was born. So there are some wonderful moms who are willing to be interviewed about what they're doing differently. And I have put together a bunch of videos for you to watch, hoping that you will get some ideas from this, not only for the time that we're in now, because hopefully lockdown will go away pretty soon, but also for the time going forward, because the things that they are telling me are absolutely applicable and so beneficial for parenting under any kind of circumstances. It's like they have taken parenting to the next level. So watch the videos and let me know what you think. So I'm going to introduce you to this wonderful pandemic hero mom called Rebecca Trebo. Tell us about you and your family, Rebecca.
Hi, I am 34 and I have 3 kids. Harvey is 9, Dorothy is 5, and Bernard is 3. And we all live together in the same house with my husband. And we probably, just like everybody else, started this new life of staying at home together all the time, with the highest of expectations that, like you said, we could just do the same thing, just move along with how life was in that way. And the first week of homeschooling, I thought, well, I can do this. I'm smart, and my children and I get along very well, and we can do this easily. So I came up with a schedule from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. It had lots of physical activity breaks and lots of, I thought I was on top of the game, right? Like, well, they're going to move a lot and they're going to use different parts of their brain. And I thought I'd figured it out like day one. Well, day one was a big shock when my 9-year-old son, who loves school, when I asked him to write a prompt about his least and most favorite things about being home all the time, fell on the ground, just sobbing. And I said, Harvey, are you okay? Would this be a normal reaction for you in school? If your teacher asked you to write a prompt, would you fall on the ground crying? And he said, no, it's so much easier to be mad at you than it is my teacher. And he just sat there. And Harvey is a rule follower. He's a well-behaved kid. He's a great kid. So day one, I was just put right in place that like, nope, it's not going to work going the same methods we've always gone or the way they do it in school. Like it's going to have to be unique to our family if we're going to be together nonstop.
I love what the phrase you just used, unique to our family,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody's different and
Yes.
children have got different needs under these very difficult circumstances. Their stress levels are higher, they're more anxious, they have different needs. And I love that you were so in tune with the fact that you're going to have to tweak it for your family.
Right. Right. And like you said, unique to our family, but also unique to my kids. You know, aren't we all just so different, and we want to learn in different ways, and we want to be loved in different ways, and we want to be heard in ways that are different. I mean, between my 9-year-old and my 5-year-old, they almost could not be any different. Harvey likes his space and to think about stuff kind of on his own. And Dorothy constantly wants someone to hold her, and she wants to talk about her feel, you know, like children are just so very different. And so it was not only needing to be unique to our family, but also to the kids. So we have some things that involve everybody that's more of a family project. And then sometimes we have individual things that cater more towards what that child likes. I mean, who doesn't want to learn in a way that they like to learn?
Yes, yes. And very different for different children, as you say. So that's a huge challenge for a mom and a dad. Poor dads, I'm leaving dads out of this project, because when I ask them, they go, speak to her. I think they might be a little shy. But anyway, it's a huge challenge for moms to be able to cater to the different needs and the different learning styles of the different children.
For sure. For sure. We're really lucky in the school that Harvey goes to. They have recently initiated project-based learning. So all of their requirements they have to hit twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring, they do through one large project. And it's so wonderful that that was kind of already incorporated into how our learning existed, because it's fun to take the things you have to know and apply them into a real world problem or project or whatever. And so we're really lucky to have the principal we have, because she is so in tune with how kids want to and need to learn, that the leadership that I had from just listening to her speak at meetings and one-on-one, she just really inspired something in me that this is how kids want to learn. Kids want to learn by doing. They don't want to learn by being told. They don't want to learn by sitting, especially kids with hyperactivity disorders and, you know, things of that nature. They really want to move. They want to think uniquely and on their own. And so I was very lucky to kind of have that example to look at.
And, you know, it's a surprise that they didn't do this before at school.
Right.
You know, that kind of huge project learning that is completely related to the real life situations.
Right.
It just sounds so amazing. I wish that it hopefully going to become a norm. So
yeah, she's great.
What did you do different?
Well, I took the schedule, day 2, I just took the schedule down. I said, well, the schedule is no longer existent. And they had, just through public school that they attend, they had certain things they needed to do every day, but it wasn't really dependent on a whole lot of time or scheduling. They just had a certain amount. So I sat my kids down and I said, we're going to do the things that are required of us for school. And outside of that, we're going to do more projects that are fun. And my children are really into cooking and baking and being in the kitchen with me. And so somehow the idea, we call it Monday, which means World Monday, because Monday in Spanish is world. So on Mondays, we pick a country, and Harvey, my oldest, spends the day researching their history and their culture. And he makes us a slideshow of their flag and the history of the type of food they eat and why. And then he'll help me in the kitchen. Dorothy usually helps me. Each country has usually countries have a specific bread, you know, and so like she and I would start in the morning on the bread, and Harvey would work. And it was nice because he is more alone, like he likes the alone, you know, and so it was nice that he got about an hour to sit by himself and research and learn and read and apply that to his slideshow. And then once he was done with that, then he'd come in the kitchen, we'd all work together. And my husband was a bartender for years, so he's really into mixology, which is clearly unrelated to the kids. But he, even as a 34-year-old, was really excited because he would research cocktails and, like different, drinks that are, and so then he would make those. So everybody in the family was really, really, or is still, because we're still doing it, invested in this project, right? And we always, like, when we're done eating, we vote for the next country, like, well, what are we going to do next week? And how is this going to look and how's it going to work? And so over dessert for every country, Harvey would get out his Chromebook and he would show us the slideshow of the flag and, how their government works and a brief history. I mean, because so many countries have very extensive history, but a brief history of the country and their culture and their food. And it's really been the day that we all kind of look forward to every week.
Oh, that is wonderful. I love that idea. So what countries and foods and of their foods, etc., have you done?
So we started with Mexico because we live in Texas. And so a lot of those foods are similarly grown. So we can very easily get avocados and tomatoes and things. And we made the homemade tortillas and homemade salsa. And that was great. And then we moved to India. And then we moved to Italy, and we've done South Africa, and we've done, which was, I think, everybody's favorite maybe. And then we did Germany, and we did Japan this week and made homemade sushi, which Harvey, my oldest son, loves sushi. And so that's the one he's been pushing for since we started this was, let's do Japan, let's do Japan. So finally, it's kind of hard to find sushi grade fish right now anywhere. Yeah. And we found a sushi restaurant in Houston that was giving away like sushi to go sets that came with the fish and the avocado and the rice and the seaweed and the cucumber. So it had everything already cut and portioned, which selfishly I loved because it took a little bit of my work out, but also we could not find some of the fish we would need. So anyway, it worked out great.
Oh, wow.
And I can send you, we have pictures of every country and like the processes and the end results. And I can send you any of those pictures because it's been really fun to watch.
I would love that. And in addition, they've learned so much about different cultures.
They have. And about 3 weeks ago, we were all sitting at home thinking, we just keep doing the same thing every day. And I got a wild hair that we could do the same thing in an RV very responsibly because it's a home on wheels. And this was the phrase I said to my husband: if the walls of our house get smaller every day, we might as well put them on wheels and take them somewhere. And so we rented an RV and we cleaned it all, and let it sit for a day and, disinfected everything. And then we loaded up a week's worth of food and our kids, and we drove to Mount Rushmore and we learned a lot about American history. So we did America that week. We had like chili, and Harvey did a presentation on Mount Rushmore, and we went and learned about history. Because for me, and this is probably putting my style of learning onto my children, the way I want to learn something is by doing it. Like hearing about it doesn't work for me. Seeing it is fine, but I like to go and do it and experience it. And so that was really fun. And I get that is, we were able to do that. Yeah. Financially and also with work. And I get that not all families, have that opportunity. So we were very lucky to have that, but that was a really great learning experience for all of us.
Oh, that's so nice. And, interesting that you say that not all families can afford to do that.
Right.
I spoke to somebody earlier today and she said that they are doing tailgating at home.
That's fun.
Yeah, so it's kind of a picnic, tailgate picnic.
Right.
And
that's great.
Absolutely love it. Instead of sitting around the table, they're outside in the fresh air and it's all different. Yes. So it kind of sounds like a smaller version of what you were saying.
Right. Just anything that's a break from the monotony, especially when you don't have any other options. I mean, that's hard for kids. It's also hard for adults. I mean, to just sit and feel stuck is hard for people. So
yes, it's and when you say hard, I think about it because of my neuroscience. I interpreted that it's stressful. And we're collecting a lot of stress, and stress is so bad for us. It's so bad for the children. Children's brains don't work when they're stressed. They literally cannot concentrate, absorb, think it through, hold it, remember it. It doesn't work when you're stressed. So it sounds like you have kind of created a much more stress-free environment around learning.
And I've noticed that when my children, I can tell when their anxiety kicks in, and none of them have diagnosed anxiety disorders, but everybody has a little bit of situational anxiety.
For sure.
Their irritability is much higher. You know, so like if you can feel that what you're doing or the situation, or what I found is that if it's creating anxiety, their patience for me, for themselves and the work they're doing, for each other their patience is almost non-existent, right? And myself included, it's very quick to be angry when you're anxious. And so we have a practice where when we're feeling anxious, we either talk it out or walk it out. And so my kids have the option to where they can talk to me about what they're feeling. But if they don't want to talk, which my 9-year-old is getting kind of to that age where he's a little more to himself, we live on a block that is circular. And so you either get to talk about it or you get to go walk the block one time. Because if you are so frustrated or anxious that you can't put the words to it, you've got to move.
Right.
We're very big on movement because I have just learned in my life that if there's something I can't handle, I go for a run, because that's something about the endorphins, the sweat, the movement, whatever it is, it really helps me process it. And so we have implemented talk it out or walk it out.
I love it. Yes, the run is my best thing.
Yes.
After a run, during the run, I usually get some really incredibly creative ideas.
Yes.
And would never have occurred to me. And after the run, I'm like, what was I worried about? I can't remember. I feel so different.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
So it's really a good tool, a run or a walk. Some people don't like to run.
Right.
A good strong walk is also equally beneficial. So Rebecca, it sounds to me like you're in tune with the energies of your children. So if you see that they're getting frustrated or irritated, you deal with it. And I like that, because there is absolutely nothing good that comes about ignoring the child clearly sending out stress signals and not dealing with it and attempting to push through more learning or attempting to get them to change their behavior. It just increases more stress.
Right.
So it sounds like you're really very aware of it.
I've worked really hard in adulthood and as a parent to be very in tune with my feelings and then my children's feelings, because it's really hard to communicate when you have things that you're unaware of. If you can't effectively communicate, if you're angry or you're sad or your feelings are hurt or you're not feeling heard, you feel like somebody's, ignoring your request. So we try really hard, but we're not always perfect, but we try.
Yeah. So does Harvey always choose the walk rather than the talk?
Probably of the last year, almost always. Now it's interesting because at bedtime, he'll always talk about it, right? Like in that moment, he refused. I don't want to talk about it. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. And I said, I would prefer if you say, I don't want to talk about it, because you saying there's nothing wrong is actually not true. If you don't want to talk about it, I will respect that. But please don't tell me nothing's wrong when something is clearly wrong. So he'll always walk it out. He doesn't really ever want to talk. But then at night, when I go in there and we read a couple chapters of something and talk for a little bit, it always inevitably comes out. Well, I was just upset because Dorothy just wasn't listening to what I was saying, and it always comes through at some point. But, the more you try and make somebody tell you something, the less they want to tell you.
And tell me about you. Are you good with self-care?
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I exercise, 6 or 7 days a week. I take time for myself. I eat well and I drink enough water and I get 7 or 8 hours. I mean, I like to fancy myself someone who takes care of themselves pretty well, but it's easy to ignore your needs as a parent.
Yeah,
because it's really easy to just say, well, I'm upset, but so is Harvey or Dorothy or Bernard. So like, I'm going to take care of that first. So where I probably struggle is being earnest with like my emotional needs more than like physical needs.
Right. Don't we all?
Yes. I found everyone.
Yes. So this is wonderful. I think I'm kind of getting a sense that when I put this up on YouTube, with your permission, everybody's going to be making notes, talk or walk, and
yeah,
projects.
Well, I hope it's helpful to someone.
It's going to be extremely helpful, I promise you. So in closing then, Rebecca, what do you think has been, I don't know how to even phrase this question, but what are some of the best things that have come out of this crazy time for you?
I've thought about this a lot. And what I would have to say, it's probably what a lot of people have said, and it's for me like maybe a 3-tiered approach. The ability to slow down, because it's rare and frankly non-existent that society just stops and there's no expectation of you to have your kids in several activities at once, or to go to the birthday parties, or to make sure that you got all of the teacher gifts, or, it's very, very rare, and has frankly never happened in my life, that you just get a pass to not do any of that. Like, you're not a bad mom, you're not a bad friend, you're not a bad partner, for just saying, well, we just have to be here and do things together and slow down. And so I think that kind of creates the second thing that I think is great, is you get to prioritize what is important, because never in the history of the world, or the modern world, have we had the opportunity to say, I don't like this and I don't want it to be a part of my life anymore, so organically. So like, now that we get to start adding things back to our lives at some point, what do you want to add in your life? What is important enough to put back? And what was just taking your energy and your time that brought you or your family nothing?
Yeah.
And we have a really unique opportunity to just eradicate things from our lives that mean nothing, or add stress, or, and then clearly the answer of like, it's just been so lovely to just sit with my kids and have Bernard, my 3-year-old, Mom, will you read me this book? And usually, well, I'm working on dinner. Well, I've got to do this real quick. Give me 5 minutes. I'm just like, I got all day. Sure. And just sitting on the floor with my 3-year-old and just reading the same book over, 100 times, because where else am I going to be? What else am I going to be doing?
So do you imagine that when we are able to go back to life, I don't want to say the way it was or normal, but when we can actually go back, do you feel that you'll be able to incorporate a lot of what you've done here now?
So my parents have still continued to come over, because none of us had been going anywhere. And so we considered my parents kind of a part of our home. And we were actually having this discussion on Monday, when we did Japan as our country. And I said, do you think we'll be able to keep doing this once, we all have jobs and things going on? And we decided once a month. So instead of once a week, once a month, but it will be a priority that once a month, this is the country we pick, and we're all going to get together and do it together, because it's something we've all enjoyed. My dad, 71 years old, said, I have loved waking up on Mondays and spending my whole morning researching India or Japan. And I've learned so much about cultures that I, in 71 years, have never learned, and I feel like I can't get out of this interview without acknowledging my parents for who they are, because the only reason I have like any emotional awareness is because they gifted me self-esteem and self-worth, and like loved me unconditionally. My dad took me on trips, and taught me history, like my dad taught me by showing me, and my mom was always there. And I know that so many people struggle as parents because they were not given the tools that I was given. And I was given, all of the tools any person could ever want. So I feel like I couldn't get away without acknowledging that, because it's not like these are things that I just came up with because I'm some genius. Like, I was gifted so much by my parents in form of self-worth and unconditional love and these sort of things that so many people just so heartbreakingly don't get, that I felt like I needed to acknowledge that. So
that is so beautiful. I'm so glad that you did, because again, from my point of view, remembering what I do in my practice is I really try to change. I don't try. I really help parents change generational patterns that were not working. Like you say, not everyone was so gifted as you. They saw you, they heard you, they connected with you, and that gave you self-esteem and a sense of worth. There are so many of the moms and dads that I work with who didn't have that, and then are struggling to give it to their children. And so it's like a generational thing that gets passed down. And I just feel that in my work, I always say to my clients, this is the moment when you can stop that generational pattern and start a whole new one for you and your children and your grandchildren and down the line. So,
and I don't know, something in my mom and my dad also, but I think specifically my mom, something just inside her voice said that exact phrase to her, because neither of my parents had the type of childhood I had. And something in their heads was just like, it stops here. We want a different generational pattern for our children and our grandchildren, and subsequently on and on and on. So I just wanted to acknowledge my parents because they're lovely, great people.
Good for them and good for you. What a beautiful thing. Lovely story.
Thank you.
Rebecca, thank you so much for coming
Of
on.
course.